And we are live. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are live from Teach Educational HRD to talk about differentiation for schooling at home. I'm Aqdus Aslam. I'm the director at Teach Educational HRD, and I've been working with a variety of schools as a school counselor, as a teacher trainer, and as a consultant. I have with me Sara Naeem, who has previously been the counselor, a consultant for Teach Educational HRD, and has been a trainer with us for several trainings. She's currently based in the UAE as an educator. Sara, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, Aqdus. Thank you for having me here. And yes, okay, so I've been teaching for quite some time, I've been teaching in Pakistan for about 8 years, and then I've moved here to UAE. I've been teaching here from last 2 years. This is my third year of teaching here, and I find there are always similarities in what you see in the children, the issues, and the things that you see in schools, and then there are completely different as well. Like the language is different, the culture is different, so I've learned a lot. And I've been teaching from home from last 2.5 months now. It's almost two, no, it's actually 2 months now. And I think the learning curve for me has been huge, as is a big steepy curve. I think, as I say, they wish for corona curve to grow flatter. I feel that our learning curves have gone steeper and steeper. The number of apps and number of ways that I've learned, number of things that I know about my students have increased in this time. So, and yes, I'm here to share that. How is that experience going, and how do I feel about that, and what you can use, what worked for me, and what I think you can try as well. That's about it.
Okay, so we are going to start off with our topic for differentiation for schooling at home. And we know that the unique circumstances that the COVID-19 pandemic has put us in have really opened the opportunity for us to explore a variety of learning tools, a variety of learning environments as we shift our schools, our traditional school systems. Most of them are traditional school systems into homes, into the confines of the home. So for us, one of the key concern is that how are we bringing in a classroom environment, a school environment into the home? And as far as uh, our approach goes, we recognize that schooling at home, bringing the school to the home, poses a variety of challenges, and we are hoping that with today's live session, we'll be able to address at least some of these challenges. Okay, so to begin with, we'll talk about what is schooling at home. Schooling at home is essentially us trying to bring the school to the home. When we The COVID-19 pandemic has put us in a situation where we have had to think really quickly. The schools have to take immediate decisions as to how they are going to continue the process of learning that was happening at the schools in a remote environment, and not just a remote environment, an environment where there is a likelihood of a lot of things going out of control. So the school environment is really something which we can control. We have a set number of students in this class. We can get them to sit together. We can group them up easily. But with schooling at home, we have shoddy internet connections. We have siblings screaming at the background. We have parents working at the same time, so kids end up missing classes. So there is a lot to do. There are a lot of new challenges that bringing the school to the homes have encountered. So we're going to try and address this with something that we call differentiation. Now, differentiation is essentially a way to tailor instruction to meet individual needs. So we recognize that with the COVID-19 pandemic, everybody has a different household setup. There are homes in which learners have access to screens, have access to technology alone. And there are homes in which they have to share their resources with their siblings and with their parents as they go along, trying to figure out how school is going to work. So so another thing that is suddenly popping up in terms of individual needs is that the challenges that our learners will face when working at home are completely new. And of course, differentiation traditionally does account for the fact that students have a variety of interests and motivations. They may have an inclination, I would not say a natural inclination, but a current inclination towards learning in a particular way, maybe kinesthetically, maybe audiovisually, maybe through the imagination of three-dimensional spaces. And they all have their unique strengths and struggles. They're also at different learning sorry at different learning levels. So even within the same classroom, even at school when we are teaching, we know that two different students are definitely not learning in the same way. There may be some similarities, but they're not the same. So how do we differentiate? We differentiate through a variety, um, through offering some variety within the content, the process, the products, and the learning environment. And we are going to take a look at them as we go along. So, and today, the examples that we use, we will try to focus them on the learning experience that as educators we are trying to provide to our students at home. So we start off with differentiation by content. Now, we all know what the content is. And for people who are working in traditional school environments, we know that often they have very limited variety available in terms of differentiating by content. Um, we have the same textbooks. We generally share the same resources with all of the students. We give them the same tools. But the fact that now we are working in an environment where our students are working individually from their homes, we suddenly can use differentiation by content more effectively. How can we do so? So what we can do is that we can allow students options to access the same information in different forms. So for example, they already have a textbook resource, but we supplement it, or we offer them the option to take the same content, the same learning standards, approach the same learning standards through some videos or some computer games that are available online. This is the simplest way in which educators who are working from home can differentiate by content. A more challenging way to do it is to use text or materials at a variety of reading levels. So now, because you're learning online, learning has gone online, learning has now going has gone digital. Suddenly we do have access to a variety of reading levels available online. So as educators, when we plan our lessons, what we can do is we can keep the textbook information with us, but we can also see what are their resources that cover the same essential facts and skills but use different language. So I understand that as a language educator, you want the students to be at a particular reading level, but that is not necessary for a science or a math or a humanities educator. And sometimes a variety of materials can be used easily and creatively to help the students learn. Okay. Another thing that we can do is we can differentiate by process. This refers to how students make sense or understand the information, ideas, and skills being used. It reflects students' learning styles and preferences, and allows us to use a variety of techniques to approach the same learning standard. So, for example, we know that educators across the world, you teach how to balance mathematical equations in different ways. Um, and,
Uh, I will
okay,
take over. I will
yes,
take
please,
over.
Sarah. Just 1 second.
Thank
Okay.
you. Okay, I think what you have seen is exactly what you should be ready for.
Yes.
And I think this is a great example. I think Aktas kind of, planned it this way. So, I think when we talk about online learning, uh, we have a chance to cater our different students. Maybe in classrooms, when we are restricted by the curriculum, when we are restricted by we need to do exactly this thing, these page numbers need to be covered. We kind of lose the creativity. We kind of become a little, what is the word? A little restricted. I feel online learning has actually allowed me to experiment more, to be more creative, to cater to my students. Differentiation by process is basically exactly that, trying and trying and giving them different materials, different ways, so that they can master the same content. For example, if I want my students to learn about quadratic equations, I can obviously give them a textbook task, but some of my students might not like that. Have a shortest attention span. Gamified versions are now easy to give them. Are now like you can easily give them those, and it becomes better and kind of more interactive for the students. So I feel online teaching has given us more variety. The first thing first, I believe, is that when we are talking about online teaching, we need to remember that it is all new for us, for the students. So number one, patience. Number two, do not stress or fret about it a lot. The organization I work with, they have been very supportive in that regard. You I should recognize this, and my workplace should recognize this as well, that all of this is new. There will be glitches, there will be problems, there will be quick fixes, and there will be a point eventually then we will that where we will become comfortable with this. So what I have found is that even if you feel like you're losing control, if you feel like, oh my god, today none of my students are responding, I am talking to just a dead sea out there. Even if that is happening, some days are like that, but other days they are very interactive, they are very engaged. It also kind of depends on what kind of devices, what kind of facilities your students have access to. So I think if you have just started on online teaching, or if you're going to start online teaching soon, you should give yourself and your students about a week or two to adjust to the fact that there will be technical glitches, there will be, difficulty in accessing different content, being comfortable in accessing things online. There is also an added concern of people are like really concerned about the screen times. Like the screen time has been increased. So I think number one, we should remember that it is going to be a very, very productive screen time. So that is kind of allowable. A lot of parents and or a lot of educators who believe that this added screen time is not needed, I would still suggest that you can try homeschooling rather than school from home, where student and teacher go live. That has worked really well for a lot of people, and that is a very viable option, and I think it will work really well if a parent has a lot of time at hand, has some time in hand, and they are willing to work with their students one on one. That said, I think the screen time is inevitable in a lot of situations. Like if we look at, if as a teacher I look at my work, there was a time when I used to write all my lesson plans, where I used to like my screen time as a teacher was like barely an hour a day. Like even an hour is a big number. I think 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, where I would just like look up something on internet and then go back to my paper based teaching. But right now, as a teacher, all of us are planning our lessons online, are communicating and collaborating online. So the screen times are inevitable, whatever profession you are in, wherever you are in. Just think of this as productive screen time. Just think of it as, you're, what is the word? You're steering your child towards towards being more professional, I guess, a child being professional. You're I think it's empowering them to making the right decisions. Okay, I can play a game or I can complete a task, kind of a situation. So yeah, I think I would say they're becoming more professional. I keep seeing these memes online where kids are all dressed up, ready for their classes. So that is a sense of responsibility. That is a sense of something that we never encountered when we were kids. So thank you, distance learning, for that. Okay, and I think, give it to Agnes now. Agnes.
Okay. So we have already covered differentiation by process. And we will now move on and by process, and we will now move on to differentiation by product. So it is differentiation by product is essentially allowing a variety in the assessment tools, or by say using a mix of projects, essays, presentations, reports, tests, brochures, you name it. As educators, you know that there are so many ways in which you can assess students, and we there are some very non-traditional ways in which students can present their learning to you, given the schooling at home model that we currently have. So now, if previously you required students to turn in an essay written out within an hour of timed and supervised writing, um, you can now let them develop online presentations. You can let them make animated videos. You can tell them to submit a report based on some of the recent news articles that they have seen. You can tell them to design brochures or Facebook campaigns or Instagram campaigns about a particular um, learning standard that they want to talk about. So there are different ways to engage the audience now. And given that, as educators, as Sara pointed out, your own screen time has increased so much, there are a variety of different ways that you can change how the assessment looks for your students. Okay, so the last aspect of differentiation, the fourth way in which we differentiate, is by learning environment. And we do that within the class. We can do that in multiple ways by for example, offering a variety of furniture. uh, in some classes, particularly in the preschools, students have the option to sit on a chair or a beanbag. Uh, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, suddenly the learning environment is really within the student's domain. It is not something that the teacher is mandating anymore or the school is mandating anymore. So automatically there is an element of differentiation being added to the learning environment. Students can dedicate some time to work online with the class. They can do so sitting in the bed, as long as they look respectable. I think nobody would be worried. Or they can do that sitting in their dining room. They can also work later at home with the flexibility to set up environments as they want. So, for example, if you have shared some resources that they need to read over, they can do so while listening to music. Or if it's an audio, they can listen to it while doing their daily exercise. So there is a lot of there's a lot of scope for differentiation by the learning environment. Okay. So now I want to talk about one of my favorite tic-tac-toe tools for differentiation, which is a tic-tac-toe table. And there are a lot of different techniques that you can use to differentiate instruction. Tic-tac-toe just happens to be my favorite. I like it because it allows a sense of structure to the educator, as well as necessitating that there is going to be a certain variety that the students are going to offer. So if you can look at the screen, and you can see that it's a standard tic-tac table, a 3 by 3 square, in which we can keep the first row for something that we want students to say learn from. Okay, so these are all learning resources. And the second row can be something, can be a way in which students can show or demonstrate what they have learned. So essentially your assessments or your products of learning. And the third tool is essentially how the students can use that assessment for improvement. So if we look at it, I put in a YouTube video, the options of a YouTube video, the school textbook, or a variety of resources that the teacher can come up with the student, or the student can choose themselves in the first row. And you can allow that option to your students very easily within the flexibility of your distance learning classroom. uh, with regards to the assessment, I put in a PowerPoint presentation or a 3D model or an essay. And again, you can have some restrictions put on in. There can be some time constraints. There can be some key content areas that must be covered within these. Please remember that when we differentiate, we do not compromise on our on our critical learning standards. So those are very important, whether they are knowledge, whether they are skills, those are very important. We do not compromise on them. What we do is we compromise on things that are non-essential, and offer variety within those domains. So if the children have to study two-digit multiplication, then of course they have to study two-digit multiplication. That's your primary goal. But you can do that in many different ways. Um, and then we can offer them a variety of self-assessment tools also within this particular tic-tac-toe table. So you can allow students to self-assess themselves as well as do peer assessment for two other students, or they can peer assess for five other students, or they can self-assess their own essay and then write another draft of the same essay. So students, based on what they need, can choose to do column number one, column number two, or column number three, or they can choose to do it diagonally, which is not an option that this current tic-tac-toe table allows. Other tools that are available are other tools that are done similarly are menus. So if you just search differentiating by menus on the Google search, you will see a lot of options. And what we can do is we can also share some resources with you in the comments after this session is over. Um, Differentiation is definitely a topic that has been greatly explored by a lot of educators across the world and in a variety of setups. So just remember that when you are differentiating, you want techniques that are easily implementable within the home environment. They are not something that pose an extra challenge to the parents, or something that students have to learn all over again, or from scratch, and you want to build on things that they have previously learned. Okay, I'm going to make this give this over to Sara, because she has some tools that she wants to share with you about differentiation. Sara, you will need to share your screen again. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Um, all right. So basically, first to answer Ms. Geti's question, when we talk about online learning and student missing sessions, it again depends on once you're in the classroom and you realize a lot of my students do not have access to internet and devices when I'm teaching. That is when you go and use most of your planning is done on in asynchronized way. Asynchronized way is that even when you're not live teaching, your students can access all the materials that you have prepared. And synchronized teaching is when you're live teaching, your students have access to only the materials are with them when you are teaching them in the class. So my focus today is basically on six tools. The tools you can see in the middle, Nearpod, Classkick, Peer Deck, and Kahoot allows you to do both. So for example, I am teaching live. I can use all four of these tools. I am teaching live, but I want my students to solve the questions or look at the material afterwards and do the task afterwards. I can still use Nearpod, Classkick, Peer Deck, Kahoot, and WordWall. All right. These tools are help you with the making sure that the material is available to the students all the time. I think a point of concern here is that material should be available to the student all the time. This does not mean that a teacher will be available to the students 24/7. So if somebody asks you to be available 24/7, I think that is wrong. You should set a time that I'm available from like 9 till 3, and that's it. If you have queries, email me, send a comment, or wait till tomorrow morning. Nothing is like, there's no deadlines as such anymore that can be covered. Next, what Miss Asifa said here, that in online teaching, sometimes you're worried that whether your students are listening, are interacting with you or not. Number one, if you're teaching PowerPoints, I would recommend that replace PowerPoints with any one of these three apps: ClassKick, Nearpod, Peer Deck. The benefit: number one, you can see your students working live. For example, I will show you a screen. See, this is my Nearpod class. What is your favorite movie or TV show? Like all my students, I would, if you look at the bottom, there is a people sign. I will be able to see how many of my students have signed in. All of them will have to answer me in what is in real time. So all of them, in my regular class, I would see 20 people answering 20 different answers, and I would be able to see them like without a minute's delay. So I suggest that if you're using PowerPoints, remove them and remove them or replace them with any one of these: Peer Deck, Classroom, Kick, and Nearpod. All three of us allow us to prepare our lessons with gamified activities. You can put a quiz, you can put a poll, you can ask them to draw something, you can ask them to, what else, you can ask them to collaborate with each other. So there is a portion in Nearpod which allows you to, what is it, it's like a board where the usual brainstorming task that we do can be done beautifully on it. So you pose a question, and while you're taking attendance, students can put up their answers. They can like each other's answers, they can comment on each other's answers. Now, all three of them, you can use them for live teaching as well as for assigning. Like you can assign them and students can complete it in whatever time they have. I'm going to show you some of my Nearpod activities. In the links or in the chat, you will see a Nearpod lessons that I have developed or I have planned, and you can go in and solve the lesson even right now. So this is me making a regular slide in Nearpod. This is me asking student a question, an open-ended question. This is me giving them, this is again giving them what is a matching task. So they have to match a famous TV show, a superhero movie with a picture of that. And then this is a listening task that I've given them. So there is an audio, they play the audio and they can solve all of these questions right there, and I will be able to see the questions in them. One of the things that I love about this is that I can tell, oh, Allah, you're not working, you haven't even started. On my screen, I can even see who have started, what is their progress. Once they submit their work, I can check them. It is time bound as well. And again, you can do it in real time. You can do it as something that they can do later. All right. Nearpod, it's not, it is available for students to view the lesson, but to plan the lesson, you need a laptop. Oh, I forgot. One of the most important thing I wanted to say in the start was, for all the lessons that you're planning, you would need a laptop. However, for all your students, everything is accessible by the phones and tablets, but you would definitely need a laptop to plan your lessons, whatever you're using. So this is a poll. Again, a Nearpod Grab, Peer Deck, and Classical Cake works almost in the same way. All of them are free to sign up right now. You just need a Google account. So this is them doing that. Next is word wall. Now word wall can be used in real time, and word wall can be used in like you can assign them later, you can give them in the class. It works either way. So this is a screen grab from word wall, and it took me about 7 minutes to make this task. So what I did was, I opened word wall. It allowed went to Google, picked up a map of Pakistan, and now the students put these 6 options on the side: north, south, east, west, desert, and western mountains, and the students will be able to solve it. It took me like literally 6 to 7 minutes to make this interactive activity. for my students. Word wall is amazing. It allows you to do these many things. If you can see my screen, from labeling a diagram to making a crossword to making a sorting activity to making a matching activity, word search, unjumble, true false, a game show where they progress with marks. It is word wall allows you to do all of that. You only need to sign up using your Google account. You don't have to pay for anything. I hope this works. Um, Once again, I will, word wall allows you to do all of these things. I can see that my screen comes a little late. So these are all the options, all the activities you can make. You can, okay, you can also put up already made activities there, like take a picture of true false, put it up there, and that works as well. After word wall, I have Kahoot. Kahoot I've been using for about how many years? Like, it's been 3 years that I've been using Kahoot. I'm gonna let my screen change because my in real time I can see that you guys can still not see my screen. You can still see word wall. All right, so the word wall is very simple. It allows you to do a lot of things. It is amazing for, I think, humanities teachers, history, geography, Islamic studies, everything. It works beautifully. Now, Kahoot is another app. Kahoot is used to make quizzes. It can be used as a lesson starter. It can be used as a plenary. It can be used again. It can be used live. It can be used whenever materials is available for with your students. One good thing about Kahoot is that if you're teaching Urdu or any subject in Urdu, it is kind of compatible. So you prepare everything on a Word document and you can copy paste your questions, you can copy paste your materials on Kahoot. So I have tried doing that. So, like for example, I wanted to ask what is the meaning of trade in Urdu. So I can write tijarat in Kahoot. That allows me. So really good. It has a very interesting, these are the templates. So these are the things, you just open them up, start putting your questions, and your lesson is ready. Your lesson is ready. I have a Kahoot activity in the chat. It is a maths fractions activity. I hope you will be able to see the Kahoot activity in a bit, link to Kahoot activity in a bit. And Kahoot allows you to simply give students true false questions, sorting questions, MCQs. You can use Kahoot to teach up. So, for example, if you feel that 5 or 6 students in my class are really at a higher level, so you can just assign them a Kahoot, and they can do a Kahoot while everybody else maybe work on the same problems. One of the most interesting thing about Kahoot is that it has like all the possible subjects from marketing and business to science to English to anatomy to like anatomy to zoology. All the subject, it has already made up quizzes, so you really don't need to make a lot of effort. I sometimes make my quizzes when I'm trying to do a plenary or when I'm trying to teach something very specific. Otherwise, Kahoot has this beautiful discover thing. Just go and discover whatever you are teaching. You will see a million, not a million actually, hundreds of different quizzes, activities already made up. You just need a Google or a Microsoft account. It works with both. You just need a Google or a Microsoft account, log in, and all of this material is available for you. Already made quizzes, already done stuff. So you really don't have to do a lot there. There are a few screen grabs from Kahoot, but I think the screen loads really late. So I'm just going to give you a minute to see how a Kahoot question making interface looks like. Any questions about Kahoot? Again, free to use. You can see your students in real time, as Asifa said. Like you can see how many of them are answering, how many of them are not answering. And just as Ms. Geti said, if you want to assign them for later, you can do that as well. My next, what is it, app or next thing of choice is a classroom screen. Now, this is only a synchronized classroom tool. So I can use this only in my live classroom, not in my later sessions. So, and this helps me greatly. It's basically like a whiteboard that you have in a class. I will wait for the slide to upload to you know, describe it a little more. Here, you can see it now. So, classroom screen is basically like a whiteboard that you have on your screen. As you can see on my screen, I have lesson objectives, page number, read aloud activities. One of my colleagues, who is a fourth grade teacher, she says that she usually has to repeat a page number and task number like 17 or 18 times in a lesson. Once your students get to used to these activities, they would know that on the left side of teachers screen would be the page number, and I can open that. It allows students to work. It has several options: silent, whisper, collaborate. It allows me, if you look at the middle where you see topic, it is basically a list of names. So I put my class list up, and I can randomly, I can choose, and it would randomly choose a student for me who needs to do, who I can ask a question, who needs to show their work or something like that. It has a very nice, very visible timer that you can use. It has a very nice signal. So I use this signal in my class to point out kids who really need to, if there is something urgent and they really need to do that something urgent, they would use this. They would know that, okay, if my name is in this area, or if there is something really important that everybody in the class should look, they need to look at this red light, right? And okay, now classroom screen has updated itself a little while ago. Once you close classroom screen, once I close classroom screen, I will lose all of this information. I have to remake all of this information. However, classroom screen allows us to use to make three different screens at the same time, which basically means if I'm teaching grade 9, grade 11, and I have some school related task, I can make three different screens. And let's say I have two lessons, two different sections of grade 11. I will be able to I will be able to teach them. All my instructions for grade 11 will be on one screen. All my instructions for grade 9 will be on other screen. And if I have some other task, other words, I can use that as I can use my third screen. That is classroom screen for you. And all right, these are, if you have missed something, these are my, these are the four main, I would wait for the screen to change, and then I would say the next. Okay, so on your live chat, you will be able to see several links. There is a word wall link, there is a Neopod link, and there is a Kahoot link. You can go and attend one of my lessons right now. You can attend one of my lessons whenever you want to. So these three lessons, I have made them, and I've made sure they are available for people for like whenever they want to use it. So it's I can use them as live. Right now I've used a student paste option, which basically means that you can use these lessons to you can access these lessons at any time, and you can easily use these lessons. And that's about it, Aqdus. I am done.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sara. I think I've learned some very interesting things, things that we can possibly use in some of these sessions, these live sessions. Do let us know, everyone, how you liked our session. We'll also try to respond to your queries as we go along. And later on, also, if you leave us a comment, we'll try to respond to them. The links that Sara has mentioned are in the comments, and we have also displayed them on the screen for now, but they are available in the comments also. So you can take a look at them later on also. Thank you so much for coming on live with us today. Just a reminder that when you plan for schooling from schooling at home, please remember that students do not have the same learning advantages that they might have when they are at school. So there will be some level of distraction. So there will be some level of distraction, and there will be some level of a different set of engagements possible. Okay. Um, okay. So the next thing that you need to remember is that whatever facility, whatever technology you use should be something that the student is able to easily grasp and understand, and they don't have to spend a lot of time trying to learn through it. So that's the advantage of some of the things that Sara has shared with you, that they are very user friendly and intuitive. That is, however, not true for all the resources out there. So if you're planning on trying a new technology, we would recommend you try it at your end with your own kids or your spouses first, with people in the family first, to see how it works. When we get we
Um, I think one thing that Adas has said, I would say is what I do is like, for example, I'm planning something new, I'm trying something new. I would open two browsers. So I will open a Firefox where I'm planning an activity, and I will sign in as from Google Chrome as a student and see how the interface looks and how it works. And I do that in my live Zoom or a team session as well. I always keep the student view available in another browser. So if, for example, a lot of my students will be like, teacher, I don't know where I can play the audio, then I would go to the student view, share the screen, and show them, okay, this is where you play the audio from. That works really well.
Okay, so that explains why you had the phone in the hand all the time today.
Yes. So even right now, I was looking at the queries and everything. I'm like, multitasking is the new world. It's the new thing.
Yes, yes. I think what is very just important to remember is that these are difficult times for everybody, and we'll get through them at some point or the other. Hopefully soon. But when we get out of this, also a lot of this technology and a lot of this learning is going to help us as we go along. Um, all the best, everyone. Do let us know in the comments what is it that you want to talk about with us next time, and we will probably do some more live sessions. We're also going to try to set up our YouTube channel so that these lessons are these live sessions are easily shareable later on also. So thank you for all your support and your excitement to help us put this together. Sarah
Thank
really
you.
wants to say
Yes.
something.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I enjoyed doing this. And I would like to ask one thing in that if any one of you would like to do sessions in Urdu, we would be happy to do that as well.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes.
we would
Well,
happy to
that would
do
be
that
very
as well.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
that would be lovely.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so
All right.
much. See you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.